This video is brought to you by jadedpainting.ca.
Hey everyone, welcome to another review. As always, my name is Jay, and today this will be the first part of probably a two-part in-depth review of the new Inquisitor Codex supplement that just came out today for the Inquisition. Now, most of you know Inquisition had their most recent Codex release in 5th edition as part of the Grey Knights Codex, and the Grey Knights were basically the standard Marines part of the Codex, and the Inquisition had their own part, primarily consisting of just some HQ choices. I believe they had six HQ choices and a bunch of elites that can be taken as troops if you take Inquisitor Cotiaz as your HQ. But GW has decided that they deserved their own little supplement, an update for 6th edition. And so they released it in digital form. So I'll be reviewing this on my iPhone, actually. Basically, for this video, I will be giving my first impressions of the new supplement, whether or not it was actually worth the paper it's written on. Of course, it's an ebook. And just some of the new rules, specifically the new ally matrix, the new warlord traits, and the new relics. Because as we know, with all of these supplements, GW attempts to give each group some flavor and a distinction from the other major codex by usually giving warlord traits or some twist, like for the Eldar, for example, Wraith Knights can become your warlord, and they have different warlord traits, and it's really cool. And so, of course, they were going to try to do this with in the Inquisition. So, yeah, that's pretty much that. So, as I mentioned, this is the 5th edition one, and there were a couple things, but there's a lot of reasons why many people don't want to collect the Inquisition. And I feel very strongly that this is kind of GW's attempt to boost the sales of the Inquisition. Now, I know what you're thinking, isn't that like every other codex? Well, yeah, but this time there's no new models. Really not that big of a distinction between the Inquisition supplement and the Codex Grey Knights. And yeah, it's just trying to boost some sales and get Inquisition into a lot of different allied choices. Basically, this supplement is very different, I find, from the other supplements, where the other supplements you could actually run your entire army under that supplement codex. This one, I wouldn't recommend it very highly. This one is pretty much designed to be an ally attachment rather than a full army, I find, because the entire codex only contains HQs, 5 to be exact, so they've actually lost an HQ between Codex Grey Knights and Inquisition, and elites, and a bunch of elites, all the henchmen that you can all the different henchmen that you can take, and of course, once again, you can bring them as troops if you take Cotiaz. Now, they do have access to some dedicated transports, one of which is typically fast attack, and one of which can be heavy, but besides that, there aren't really any heavy support choices. There aren't any elite choices if you take them as troops, and if you don't take them as troops, they're just elites, and you don't have any troops, and there's no fast attacks. So really, it's just a tiny smidge of a codex, you know. And as I said, not much is different. My first impressions are, I like some of the warlord traits. I like what they do with the focus, with the ally matrix, obviously, because obviously if you didn't change the ally matrix, these guys wouldn't be worth anything, because you really can't take them as good allies. And they got some cool warlord traits, some cool relics. But besides that, there really isn't that much new. They lost one type of henchman. They lost an HQ. They gained one type of henchman, and they gained access to a couple dedicated transports, which I will mention. That'll be in the next video where I go over the force organization chart, but in this one I'm just going to cover what exactly is new. So as I said, my first impressions, not much is new. It doesn't seem to have that same distinction that the other supplements have. It doesn't seem to have much flavor to it. It's cool, but yeah, You know, I'm not the most impressed with this supplement. Now, obviously, as you guys know, I love Grey Knights, and but as I mentioned, there are several reasons why I don't typically collect Inquisition. I really wanted to, but first of all, here's my problems with collecting Inquisition. Number one, it's very expensive, right? They come in packs of 1 or maybe 2 models. They're usually quite expensive, about $20 a blister. Number two, the materials I don't like really working with. They're either fine cast or metal. There's no plastic kits available, and they're not releasing any plastic kits for this new Inquisition upgrade. And third, every model is basically only available through direct order for Games Workshop. And that means I can't get them at a decent price from my local store. And if I order them, for example, I ordered an Inquisitor Codex model from my local store, and it took 5 weeks to come in, right? Or I can order them directly from Games Workshop, but then I have to pay shipping unless I order them over $80, and there's all this hoopla, and so it just greatly complicates things. And that's actually one of the reasons why I don't collect them. Plus the fact that with these henchmen, you can collect a lot of models. It's pretty much a horde army at this point, because the cheapest ones are only, I believe, 4 points a model. Yeah, the Warrior Acolytes. Now they're just called Acolytes. They're cheap, 4 points a model. You can get a lot of Acolytes in your army. So think of how much it would cost to build them. Now obviously you can convert them using Imperial Guard. That'd be great too, but that's still a lot of bodies that you have to paint. So it's a very expensive army choice. So, and on top of that, I wouldn't take them as an allied choice typically, because the best allies in the game, in my opinion, are all Battle Brothers. Two armies that really help out each other and don't inhibit one another. And the biggest problem with the Grey Knights Codex is they aren't battle brothers with anyone. They're allies of convenience with a few armies, such as Black Templar, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, I believe even Eldar. Yes, even Eldar. You know, they're allies of convenience with most armies, actually, but just they're not battle brothers with any. So that actually leads me to the first part of this new codex, is obviously to make this Inquisition supplement worthwhile, GW had to change the allies matrix for the Inquisition, because unless they're battle brothers with a whole bunch of armies, they're not going to be taken as an ally choice for most army lists. And that's obviously their goal, is to sell more of these models, get the Inquisition on the tabletop. So that was the first thing they had to do. So obviously they decided to make the Inquisition battle brothers with most armies, pretty much all of the Space Marine armies. So Dark Angels, the Imperial Guard, Space Marines, Blood Angels, Space Wolves. Let's see here. Space Wolves, Grey Knights, and Sisters Battle, as well as the other Inquisitions. They're all battle brothers now. So now their psychic powers can help. They're not going to be inhibited by the other armies, and you can take full advantage of all the rules of both armies. They actually end up helping each other. Now this is a great step. As I mentioned, if they didn't do this, the entire Inquisition supplement would have been useless, because you can't take them as a good allies choice if they're all just allies of convenience. Now, saying that, most of the other armies stayed the same besides those. But there were a couple that got worse, primarily the Xenos armies, because obviously Inquisition, a good chunk of them don't like Xenos armies. So the big ones that got worse were Necrons, Orcs, and Tau. Tau went from allies of convenience to desperate. Orcs and Necrons went from allies of convenience to actually come the apocalypse. So that's the big change in the Codex to the Matrix, right? If you want to sell more models, you got to make them available to all the other armies, and that's cool. So that's a good first step. Okay, so that cures one problem. Of course, they didn't change the prices of the models and the fact that they're all direct order. So, okay, there's the first part. Second, as I mentioned, whenever they release a new army book, there's always new Warlord traits. Now, this is cool. I really like Warlord traits because they give some fluff. Now, I'm not a big fan of most of the Warlord traits in the main rulebook. Most of them are quite useless in most scenarios, so it's kind of cool to give some flavor through Warlord traits. And it's really cool because Inquisition do have access to some pretty much the cheapest warlords in the entire game, starting at 25 points. It's dirt cheap for an HQ if you want to take them. And Cotiez, who's an amazing HQ, is only 100 points. So that's pretty sweet stuff. And the Warlord traits will give them some flavor. So I'll go over in some detail the Warlord traits. and just a little bit of detail with that. So first of all, the Warlord traits are broken down into the 3 groups of Inquisition. Now, I must also say that, I'll take a small break for just a moment and state that the Codex does give a lot of depth to the background. If you're a huge fan of the fluff regarding the Inquisition, definitely pick up the new Codex. It gives a lot of background fluff. Pretty much half the book is fluff and a lot of cool information. I learned a lot about the Inquisition and the 3 groups, but I'm just going to focus on the rule-specific aspects of this supplement. So it's broken into 3 groups: Ordo Hereticus, I can never pronounce these well. There's Ordo Malleus, and of course Ordo Xenos. And each one has their own warlord traits. Now most of them are the same, you'll find. I'll just go over them once whenever there's duplicates, but you'll see there's different ones. So if we're to start off with Ordo Hereticus, the first one's called Unquestionable Wisdom. And the warlord and his unit can choose to pass or fail any morale checks they are called upon to make. Pretty cool, makes them like mini Space Marines, right? The old combat focus? No, what was it called? Combat tactics. Yeah, it's okay, but I do find that if you're fleeing for some reason, it might mean you're gonna keep fleeing. So I don't know if that's necessarily the best trait, but it's cool. Next one's called Reader of the Tarot. Now I believe this one's available through all of the Ordos. Whilst the warlord is alive, you can roll 2 dice and choose the result if you want when rolling for reserves, outflank, mysterious terrain, or mysterious objectives. And that's kind of fun. I think this is actually a cool one. Again, if you're allying them with a list of a lot of reserves, that'd be good. I don't really use a lot of outflanking. I don't know about you guys, but I don't use a lot of outflanking, so that one part, mysterious terrain, again, I don't use much mysterious terrain, and mysterious objectives, kind of fun. Roll 2 dice, choose the best. Number 3 is called Burner of Worlds, and this one is probably one of my favorite ones. But essentially it's an orbital bombardment, 1 time per game. So once per game, your warlord can call down an orbital attack in his shooting phase. This counts as firing a ranged weapon with the profile below. This does not prevent the warlord and his unit from declaring a charge against the target unit this turn. Range infinite, strength 10, AP 1, type Ordnance 1, barrage, large blast, orbital. And what orbital typically means is that if a scattered direction is rolled on the scatter dice instead of a hit, it scatters the full 2d6. You don't subtract the distance. You don't subtract the warlord's ballistic skill from the difference. It goes the full distance. Pretty cool stuff. But then you can go assault them. That's pretty cool. And now obviously, because Ordo Hereticus is about the witches, the next warlord trait is called Witch Hunter. And your warlord and his unit have the prevent enemy psyker special rule. Now this is pretty cool if you're facing armies like Tyranids or other Grey Knights, because then you get, preferred enemy against that entire army. That's pretty cool. Number 5 is called Will of Iron, which gives him the warlord has the adamantium will special rule. Cool. And number 6 is called Master of Interrogation. Enemy infiltrators cannot be set up anywhere within 24 inches of your warlord. Again, this is interesting, but it's very game specific, opponent specific even. I don't play a lot of games with a lot of infiltrators, but if you know that your opponents are going to bring a lot of infiltrators, this one could help, because then they can't sit up in 24 inches of you, they can't get close, and that'll help you and keep you alive. Plus you can use it to probably abuse it, and if you put your warlord in the center of the table, it'll keep your opponent at the far distant edges. That'd be a fun way to kind of push them around. Next we have the Ordo Malleus traits. Number 1 is Unquestionable Wisdom. The warlord and his unit can choose to pass or fail any morale checks, as I mentioned before. Number 2 is Reader of the Tarot. Number 3 is Burner of Worlds. Number 4 is Demon Hunter. So the previous one was Witch Hunter, and this one is Demon Hunter. Obviously, this is the sect that really hates demons. So your warlord and his unit have the preferred enemy demons special rule. So again, if you're facing chaos, or if you're facing demons, you're in great shape. Or I guess Eldar with their HQ. But number 5 is called Incorruptible. All units with the demon special rule. Now this one's fun. Within 12 inches of your warlord, suffer a -1 penalty to their invulnerable save to a minimum of 6+. This is cumulative with any other modifiers. That's awesome. So if you're facing a demon army who usually has 5-up invuls around the table, they all become 6-ups. It halves the number of successes. That's sweet. That is really nice. If Fate Weaver's around you, no more 2-up reroll, it's a 3-up reroll. And that alone is just awesome. That's assuming that they get off their grimoire, you know, from the Great and Clean one or something. That's amazing. -1 is just great. Within 12 inches, but still, you know, it's a short range, but still it's pretty nice. And number 6 is called Forbidden Lore. If the Warlord is a Psyker, he generates 1 additional warp charge point in each of his turns. That's awesome. Because now you have Cotiez with 3 warp charge points. That's really cool. If the Warlord is not a Psyker, he has the Adamantine Will special rule. And now, Ordo Xenos traits. Number 1 is Unquestionable Wisdom. Number 2 is Reader of the Tarot. Number 3 is Burner of Worlds. Number 4 is Xeno Hunter. So as you can kind of guess what's going to be in this one. Your Warlord and his unit have the Preferred Enemy rule when targeting any enemy non-vehicle units from the following codices: Dark Eldar, Eldar, Necrons, Orcs, Tau, and Tyranids. If you're ever going to Xenos, Preferred Enemy with your Warlord and his group. So Attachment Squad Jokera Weaponsmiths, and you're in great shape. Very cool stuff. Number 5 is Xenotech Collector. Now this one's kind of cool. It helps keep your Warlord alive. The Warlord has 6+ invulnerable save. In addition, select one of your Warlord's ranged weapons. That weapon gains +1 strength and the Rending rule for the duration of the battle. So it becomes a little tank hunter. That'd be kind of cool. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Now a lot of these Warlords won't have amazing guns, but you can always give them an amazing gun. That's pretty cool. And number 6 is called Purity of Mankind. The Warlord and his unit have the Hatred special rule. Hatred is great. Gotta love it. Very cool stuff. Now as far as tools, ranged weapons, close combat weapons, pretty much everything's the same as it was before. If you have the Codex, very little has changed, very, very little. I will be covering any differences in the next video. But next part I want to go into is the relics. There's 3 relics available to your Warlord, and they're all cool. They're not very expensive. They're about 5, 10, and 25 points, I believe. They're very cheap, not very expensive at all. But one of the things also, I'm sorry, I'll go quickly over this, was they actually, I like the fact that they wrote the psychic powers in the language of 6th edition. And that's really nice. You know, watching the language in 6th edition, as opposed to 5th edition when they need to convert in your mind. You know, Hammerhand, for example, is a blessing that is used at the start of the fight subphase of any assault phase, friendly or enemy, and targets the Psyker and his unit. If successful, all models gain +1 strength until the end of the assault phase. It just gives them more clarity. You know, they have the same psychic powers: Sanctuary, Dark Excommunication, Psychic Communion, Psychic Barrage, etc. All the same as normal. But now here we go, Inquisitor Relics. Now these are all very cool. Now, as you know, a lot of the Space Marine armies have relics, and they finally gave some to the Inquisition. The first one is the Liber Heresius. Yeah, Liber Heresius. So heresy. Heresius, I guess. Heresius. At the start of any friendly turn, right, the bearer can take a leadership test. If the test is failed, nothing happens. But if the test is passed, choose one of the following special rules from the list below. The bearer of the Liber Heresius and his unit gain that special rule until the start of their next turn. So last one full game turn. The same special rule cannot be gained in this way more than once per game. You must choose a different special rule each time. So the first one is Scouts. Now Scouts has an asterisk beside it, and I'll explain why in a moment. Split Fire, Counterattack, Fear, and Hatred. That's awesome. So you can give them Counterattack, you can give them Scouts, you can give them Split Fire, Fear, and Hatred. So you can choose one per turn. You can easily manipulate your special rule according to what's going on, and that will help you in games. I think that's going to be a really cool one to take. But for Scouts, instead of being at the start of the friendly turn, the leadership test can be used. This special rule is made after deployment, but before first turn begins for Scouts. That's why. So before the game begins, you can roll a leadership check. It's usually a 10. On a 10, you get Scouts. Awesome sauce. Extra movement. Move up your Rhino. Great shape. Very cool stuff. Next one, Grimoire of True Names. Grimoire of True Names. When the bearer of the Grimoire of True Names is fighting a challenge against a model with the Demon Special. Now this one's, as I said, very specific. If you know you're facing a Demon army or a Chaos army, maybe bring it. Otherwise, probably not. His opponent suffers a -5, people. -5. That's awesome. Penalty to his weapon skill, initiative, and leadership. Characteristic to minimum 1. Wow. So if you're facing a Demon Prince, weapon skill 1 or 2, that's amazing. Hitting on 5s. Leadership, 2. No, not 2, it'd probably be 5, but still, that's amazing. You know, and initiative, so they're all hitting at 1s. Very cool stuff. Now it's very, you have to know you're facing demons. You know, I wouldn't put this in a tournament list, knowing that a lot of demon players wouldn't be at a tournament in my area, for example. So, very cool stuff. And the Tome of the Vethric. As I said, the first one to me is amazing, but this one's cool too. If your army contains, now this is real, I really like this one. This one would be awesome for a tournament. If you're taking a tournament, I'd definitely recommend taking the Tome of Vethric. If your opponent's army contains any detachments chosen from any of the codices shown in the table below, the bearer of the Tome of the Vethric gains the following corresponding rules. For example, if your opponent has a primary detachment chosen from Codex Tau Empire and an allied detachment chosen from Codex Eldar, the bearer would have both Furious Charge and Split Fire special rules. Very cool. So you look at both things, primary and allied attachment, you get a special rule for each one. So if they have Dark Eldar, you get Night Vision. Cool. Ignoring night fighting. That'll keep you alive with all those monkeys. Number 2, Eldar. You get Split Fire. Cool. So you can pop some vehicles. Number 3, Orcs. You get Counterattack. That's always great. So if you get assaulted by a bunch of boys, you get hit them hard. Necrons, you get Tank Hunter to pop those extra flyers. Tau Empire, Furious Charge. And Tyranids, Monster Hunter. I really like Monster Hunter against monstrous creatures. That's awesome. You know, Inquisition probably wouldn't need a boost, but they don't have any access to really some force weapons. They do, I guess, some force weapons, but still, you know, that's amazing. So, Monster Hunter on a bunch of Jokera weapons misfiring at a monstrous creature. Definitely is awesome. So yeah, so my first impressions, they do have some cool Warlord traits. I like the Warlord traits, and I like the relics, but there really doesn't seem to be that much, you know, unbelievable differences between this and the Codex, other than it is an updated thing. Now they did update, obviously, the prices of vehicles. Besides the prices of vehicles, really nothing was updated for cost-wise. The vehicles got slight cost, they realigned them with the current Space Marine codices for 6th edition, and that I do like. You know, everything became cheaper and they got access to another vehicle, but I'll be going over that in my next video. So thank you very much for watching this part 1 of my 2-part in-depth review of the new Inquisition supplement, and I really hope you like it. Please like the video, comment in the comment section down below, and subscribe to my channel if you already haven't done so. It really does help a lot. And stay tuned for the next part, where I'll be going over the force organization chart and the big differences in force organization to the Inquisition. Hint, there aren't a lot, but still, I hope you check it out. And until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.